Hey folks, my name is Krista Robb and I am a gardener here at the Appalachian Womens Museum. My background in growing stems from an early age when my mother would take me to the nursery and allow me to pick out a flat of plants to plant in my own garden at home. Ever since then, I've just been completely in love with it, addicted to it. It also goes back in my family history of growing food. It's kind of been just a staple and a way to survive, and so it's a connection with the land that I can't let go of. It's been in my blood and my ancestry here in the mountains for a long time, and ever since I was a kid I just kept nurturing that passion for growing food, and it's led me to the campus garden at Western, where I'm an alumni at, all the way to managing farms, and then growing in a garden like this at the Appalachian Womens Museum. So how did I come about the Appalachian Womens Museum? Well, I guess my main attraction is to celebrate women's Appalachian heritage and history. It runs deep in my blood, and I really appreciate all that the women have done throughout history. A lot of times, most of the attention is focused on the men, and I really admire and respect my grandparents and all the grandparents that have come before them. But this was a time where I could really celebrate all that my grandmother and her grandmother and everyone before them has come to bring to the table, literally through the garden and metaphorically. So when I first heard about the Appalachian Women's Museum, I came to a couple events here, really good vibes going on. Everybody was very collaborative and wanting to work together to support the same mission. So I immediately found a home here and felt like it was somewhere where I could belong and contribute to. So I reached out and contacted the Appalachian Women's Museum and to see if I could put my skills to use, and here I am today. Growing food is so critical to our lives, and local food particularly. Being able to help our community, being able to help one another, being able to feed one another and to present food, and not only to be able to grow the food, but to be able to take that food and turn it into a delicious meal that we can all come together and sit around the table with, I think is a very important part of society and culture. And to take that time to prepare the garden, to prepare the food, and to bring people together, I feel like is very important. And nowadays there's not as many people that are growing gardens, so to be able to share that knowledge and teach others to be able to keep passing on these traditions is very important. So here we are, and we'll just take a few moments to walk around and show you a few traditions and things that we're using and techniques that we're using to grow the garden here, some of which have been passed on and some of which are new. One of the things with growing organically, or as my grandma would say, back before there was organic, that's the way it was. They used the resources that they had available. So one of the things we like to do is companion plants. So right here we have marigolds. They have a nice scent to them. A lot of times it will deter pests from your garden. So we like to interplant, like for instance, here's a marigold with a squash. We also have a lot of different other herbs and flowers. Not only will it deter the problematic pests, but it also brings in the beneficial insects. Over here we have our popcorn. We've decided to grow popcorn this year. It's a Cherokee heritage variety. It's kind of a multicolored corn. One of the techniques we use here is as the corn grows, you want to keep hoeing up the dirt around the base of the corn. That gives it a little more stability. Corn is really shallow rooted, so one of the things to keep it from blowing over is to hoe up the soil and make a little mound around the base of the corn. That provides it a little stability, and it also provides a little furrow for the water to drain off in between. Another thing about a garden is you do end up having critters and other insects that also like to eat what you're growing. In the past, I've always heard that you plant one seed for the birds, one for yourself, and one for the bugs. So definitely when you plant a garden, don't expect it to be completely 100% growing. It's always a learning lesson in the garden. Right here, this is a squash beetle. They will eat the leaves of your plant. So one thing we like to do is just pay attention. That's one of the main things in a garden, is paying attention. They do require a lot of attention, just like we do as humans. So here we have the squash beetles. They need to go. They are here to eat your garden. So if you want to have a plentiful crop, these have to go. So here's another one, and another one. So these we're gonna have to get rid of. Right here we also have another companion plant. This is called a nasturtium, and nasturtiums will grow nice and big and bushy. They also have quite a lovely fragrance. These are small right now, but they will get big, and they're also edible. So not only are you getting a beneficial attribute to your garden, but you're also able to eat the leaves as well as the flowers, which will be multicolored. This right here in the pots, we have mint, rosemary, and thyme. We chose to put these in pots in the ground. Mint particularly is very, I would call maybe invasive. It will continue growing and flourish and spread whether you like it or not. So by putting them in the pots, we're limiting their space, but also by putting the pots into the ground means you'll have to water them a little bit less. So just the technique we're trying this year. It's not something I'd ever done before, but considering it's a volunteer garden and we're only out here a few times, it'll allow us to spend a little less time, but yet achieve some great results. So this mint here is wonderful. It can be made into teas, put in water, nice little refreshing afternoon drink. Delicious. So growing a demonstration garden at the Appalachian Women's Museum, we got to do something with all this produce. So a few things we had in mind are doing canning demonstrations. As everyone knows, canning was the way of life. It was a way to preserve your food through the winter, and to be able to appreciate your bounty. So right here we have a lot of green tomatoes. Very soon here they're going to be turning red, and then we'll can them and turn them into something delicious. One of the other things that we do is we like to donate a lot of the produce to the community table. The community table loves to take in fresh produce to have available for the community. It's also one of the ways that we can share our love and our passion for the garden. So tomatoes like this, green beans, squash, like we have plentiful squash, and so that will all be donated to the community table. So if you're wondering, how can I learn more? How can I be a part of this organization? If you'd like to learn more about gardening and getting tips on how to grow a garden at your own home, we have here locally a great service to the county through the NC Cooperative Extension. They are here to help. All you have to do is contact them. There's plenty of resources online. There's also a local agent that can actually come to you and help you at your farm, or that you can call and ask questions to. So you can visit them right here locally in Jackson County. Every county has one. So I would highly recommend that. There's also the Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project. They are also a wonderful resource for anything gardening. Of course, you're always welcome to come down here and help us. Myself as well as a few other ladies. Some of them are master gardeners, so there's always little tips and tricks. Everybody does their garden a little bit different, so there's really no wrong way to do your garden, but there's definitely helpful tips. Not only at the Appalachian Women's Museum are we doing the garden, but there's many projects to be a part of. So if you feel like you want to be involved, you'd like to give back, you'd like to be a part of something bigger, something that represents a cultural tradition, something that keeps that heritage alive, come down to the Appalachian Women's Museum.